the selvage of the paper is literally the length grain, and it will fold better there. So okay. So it folds nicer here than when I fold it, like say over here, I get kind of a bumpier edge. Sometimes you have to, but you know, I try. All right, so let's transfer this. Once we have the bones of the shirt, I will have what I need. So I really do think I'm on the wrong line here. See, my line here is this double dashed line. And the reason I'm saying this is because I just don't see the double dash line. Is it this one here? I think it is. It's the notch. The notch is sometimes the thing that gives it away. I'm gonna just get rid of that. All right. It's a little bit, but it's one of my areas that doesn't fit the greatest. And I think always it's my seam allowance. Okay, I'm just messily tracing it. I'm trying to speed up a little bit. This is really bad. All right, here's my new line that I'm going for. Here's my, apparently my shoulder seam. I think it's actually this one here. It's hard for me too when I see all those grading lines. All right, let's draw in my straight seam here, which is perpendicular. And I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do a straight line here. And now I'm gonna use my back to figure this out. I'm just gonna draw a 1 inch parallel line because that would be the seam allowance, the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So we have our center back. And we're gonna take off that seam allowance there. Sometimes it's good to get rid of this so you don't confuse yourself. And then let's just do a light 3/4 line there for lining this guy up right here. And now we can kind of see, I haven't trued this up yet either. I need to true up this seam a little bit. We can see that's where this is going to be. And I do need this extra 1/4 on this armhole seam for the yoke as well. The stream ended, what are you talking about? Where's my mouse? Are you guys still there? For 1 minute, am I back, Bryant? My thing says I'm streaming still. Am I still streaming or no? I'm live again. Whoa. Weird. That's so weird. It still says I'm streaming. A new stream started instead from my start page. Ooh, well, hopefully folks find us. I'm streaming in a new stream. That's so weird. Okay, well, I'm sorry, guys. I wonder if there was some sort of like power thingy. So where did I lose you? What was I doing? Was I just drawing my line for my back yoke? That's a bummer. I really hate stuff like that because then it makes it really messy for folks to find like the part 1, part 2 stuff, you know. So, dang it. Let me know where I should back up to. I'm just going to back up a little bit just to make sure because I'm not sure where that ended. Brian says I was gone for like a minute. And Twitch is seamless, like it's just still there. So, so what I did was I traced off my yoke. I carved out a little bit for the neck here because I think I had been using the wrong line for the size that I'm making. This is the size 12, I believe, is what I've always been using on the Archer. And now what I'm doing is determining where my new armhole line is going to be because I've already adjusted the side back armhole. And so, are you guys still there? I just can't tell anymore. I hate doubting. So weird. So weird. So, oh yeah, I don't see my, oh yeah, I am moving. Okay. Are you guys still there? Okay, so, let me know. So what I did was I laid my center back down here and I found my seam line, which is right here. And now I'm going to lay my side back on here and I line it up at the seam line again. And I found my new armhole seam right there. I think I lost you guys. It's so weird. Oh, wait. Oh, I see. My chat, it's a different chat. That's the problem, Malin. I know why. Okay, so let me find where I'm actually streaming so I can see the chat. Let's see, can I refresh this? No. Sorry guys, just a second, let me see where I'm at. I don't even know how to find my stream. Isn't that hilarious? Because everything's changed. Here we go. I'll bet it's not muted either. Oh, it is. Okay. Ah, okay. There you go. Okay. Oh my gosh, you guys said a lot. Thank you so much for saying all that. You know what? I was still in the old chat window. End to the front. Okay, I lost you at the armhole. Okay, so are we, hi Maribel. Are we on track? Like, am I about where we should be? Yeah, thanks, Bryant. Bryant, you are a gem. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you're patient. Yeah, you guys are patient. You really are. I need to see more of this. Okay, I'll cut now. All right, so yeah, so like I said, I'm going to be shaving this amount off about this. It looks less than the inch I wanted because I'm also adding that 1/4 inch extra seam allowance for the flat felled seam, right? And plus I was getting a little shy about my 1 1/4. That seemed kind of ambitious, you know, so even I get a little nervous about some of these changes. So we're gonna trim this off a little bit like that. And this will be my new back yoke. So I think what I'll end up doing, oh, I should have stapled this. It's really hard to keep your pattern pieces accurate when you're cutting them in 2 layers if you don't secure them to each other. But if you are using good scissors, good paper scissors, and you're using 2 layers, especially the stout paper, angle them like this. That's why I do that, because then you'll get the bottom layer right underneath the top layer. All right, so that was really weird. The fact that it went live again is so weird, isn't it? We have seen so many weird things. Okay, so now I could put this little juncture where the side the back princess line is right there. It's a nice little guide, you know, we don't really need it. You wouldn't really do that in production. You could even just do a center back notch here. And then you do one here. I just do it on the half, like that. And then when it opens up, it's full. Took me years of experience to get that, so it's not too much. And I want it right here as well. So now I only have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I think, now on the back neck, right? Did I trim it off here? I haven't trimmed it off here yet. So we're gonna trim that off as well, because I really want to get my neck and my collar pieces to be a little easier to sew so I don't forget. I just switched to the hard lead because it's more accurate than the soft. Let me staple this one. When I'm doing something this narrow, it is much better to secure the pieces together. I give you these little tips only because I feel like some of those little things that if you don't know about those little accuracy things with your paper, they can cause you trouble later and you don't know what the heck it is, you know? You're just like, I know I did this symmetrically. And really it's just like, maybe it just didn't get cut out. Maybe it's the width of the lead of your pencil or your pen. And those little 16ths can get really added up. I mean, it doesn't matter on something like a woven shirt, right? But if you were doing something really precise, you know, like a silk dress or something that's really fitted, that stuff adds up. That's awesome, Ray. I'm glad. I know, right? I kind of needed this today. I've been kind of in like a slump because I'm a little overwhelmed. And then last week I just had such a weird week, you know? It was just a weird week. You know, I even like go to the dermatologist to get this like stuff for my rosacea, and she's like, let's freeze this off your face. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like that weird stuff. And then then the rat. And then I thought I was sick over the weekend, but it turns out I think I had hurt my lower back, and I thought there was something going on because it was tender and I didn't know what was going on, but I think I hurt my back. Just weird things. So full moon week. Yeah, there you go. Right? Oh, Malin. You know, you guys, I will tell you. Oh, thanks, Ray. Joining the quilting group has been really great for me. Like, my mom asked me at dinner last night, she goes, so are you starting to like quilting? Like, not like I hadn't liked it before, but more like, so are you really getting into it, you know? And I was like, and I just sat there for the longest time, and then she started laughing. I was like, no, I mean, I like it. I said, it's not my thing yet, you know? It's not really my thing. And so, and she's like, yeah, I totally know what you mean. She had a friend that was a quilter, and she was, you know, my mom sewed, but she wasn't into it as much as I've been into it, you know. And I went to the modern quilting group on Monday, and it was the very first time in a really long time I walked into a room and I felt like I was with a bunch of friends that I knew, and it felt really good. Like, I've been slowly meeting these gals and seeing them in other different contexts of sewing, and that was the first time like I knew a lot of people there, and it felt so good to have a group of friends that sew, and they're all way better than me at quilting. So that's really fun for me to be a beginner somewhere and to be kind of totally out of my like league and comfort level is really cool. I have a massive amount of respect for quilters because it's totally different and it's hard, you know. So, you know, it has helped. I will say that, Malin. Like, joining, even though that's not my passion, I've made one quilt. And I wasn't even in the group when I did that. And will I make another one? I don't know, but I'm still going to hang out with them and go to the meetings. It's fun talking about sewing. And we do little exercises and stuff. And it's cool. And it's a modern, mostly modern quilt group. So that's kind of cool to see that kind of spin on it as well. I think it's good. All right, so this little easing in of the shoulder here, it's not my favorite. I may just get rid of it, you know, because this curve, I feel like my curve is a little more exaggerated than it needs to be. So I'm gonna get rid of it. It's gone. And now I'm gonna kind of adjust this juncture here to make sure it's smooth. So let's put my seam allowance so I can overlap it proper. You can see I have this weird little angle happening here, like that. And so there's my amount that I'm gonna trim off. Something like that. And I don't need to add the 1/4 inch for the flat felled seam because all these pattern pieces I'm using to true up this have it. And so they're accommodating that. Yeah, right, Rachel? Really, Terry? You mean you tested the project bag? You kept that close to you. That one? I didn't see you were in the test group, but I didn't actually look at all the names either. I know I'm like that. Yeah, Rachel, it's true. Like, I felt like my first meeting I went to, I was way too chatty because that's my nervous habit is to talk. Hence why I can fill all the space in the world in this live chat. And it's a weird nervous habit to have because I blush really easily and I don't like everybody looking at me, but then I'm opening my big fat mouth and everybody's looking at me. It's just the weirdest vicious circle. It's so annoying that I do it. And as I'm driving any of these places, I'm like, tonight you're not going to talk. You're just not going to talk, Sarah. You're going to be a really good listener and you're not going to open up your big fat mouth and whatever, you know what I mean? But I'm also a very curious person and I want to ask questions and yeah, you know, so. Right, Ray? I like what you say about that. Like, I've talked to a lot of people that are just like, I'm fat and I'm okay with, like, you. That's not an insult. You know? I like it. I like it when they talk like that. It's like, it's a description. We don't call, when we call someone skinny, it's not an insult, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I am chatty, but it's not like, I'm pretty introverted. It's a weird thing. I don't know. I read a book about it, and apparently it's very common. But I am really liking this group, and I like these women, and I really like that it's very real. They all have different things that they do. I have no idea what any of them do for work, which is cool to be kind of in that, like, a group where you're just like, you're just sewists together, you know? And we all, like, talked about our goals this year, and it was really interesting hearing those, and I don't know, it's good. And, you know, I will hear sometimes over here, like, some of the struggles they're having in their personal lives, like whatever, their husband this or their daughter that. And it's like, I like being in a group where it's very realistic, you know, because everybody has those things in their life. Every cute Instagram person has those things in their life. And every not so cute Instagram person has those things in their life, you know? And I just like being able to, it's not a stigma, it's a comfortable thing. I'm just notching my placket. So again, this is my left front. This is how I like to notch and drill my things here. Okay, so we have a left front, center backs, side back. We have our yoke. We have the main bones of this garment except for the sleeve, right? So, Terry, I can't believe you sewed the project bag. That's so awesome. Now I'm going to look for all your feedback. You are, Rachel? That's so cool. Make sure you trade, you know, like, make a little, like, card, even if you hand write a few cards with your, like, name and your email or however you want people to contact you, your Instagram or whatever. And this is my little helpful tip. I really like it when someone writes something that reminds me who they are, you know? Like, you can say, I'm the one that was wearing the polka dot dress or whatever, you know? Because I think like you're gonna forget like everybody you met and everything, and like I really like at the end of a show, I will, every time someone gives me a card, I write on it, this I talked with this person. I will get back to my hotel room, look at all those cards, and I will literally remember 1 out of 15 of them. All the rest I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that conversation. You know, do something like that. They don't have to be fancy. Maybe you could have a lot of fun making them too, you know, print it on fabric or whatever, but you don't have to, you know. All right, so this is my right front, and the right front is pretty much the same beast, except it doesn't have the placket. You can see right there. That's how different it is. So I'm gonna make this off camera. You don't really need to see me do that. I'm really just focused on the adjustments, and we've already been streaming for a bit. I know you guys are really interested in the sleeve, and so am I. So let's get to it. And I'm going to start, I'm gonna move all my junk this way because this is my habit. I kind of drift. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Let's also look at, have I been doing all the changes? Where's my list? Yes, I've done all those things. Okay, so we've done our, not our, but mine. We did our FBA, our F belly A, right there, okay. Apparently I stuck my front to the back here, somewhere, right here. And I don't want to lose this pen quite yet. That. We did all of this back here. Yeah, I think we're doing really good. Oh no, I didn't even get that. It's hilarious. All right, I'm gonna take all my pins out. And let's start thinking about the sleeve. So the changes I made to the armhole are going to be quite significant in how they affect the sleeve. I have to make some major changes. And in fact, I'm gonna have to lengthen my sleeve because I'm raising it up so high. But I'm actually not gonna raise it, I'm gonna add to the cap instead. Or I could do Malin's trick of just using a larger sleeve, but I've cut all those sizes off now, so. You could do your own Illinois frock tails. You are, Terry? That's awesome. You know, what's fun about this process is that I really loved, like, everybody's bags have been so awesome to see, like, where they struggled, and the folks that were like, this was, the fact that so many people really liked the video made me feel so good, you know? It's like, okay, these folks are getting why the video kind of is nice, you know? But all the feedback has been so good, like such great feedback, like things I hadn't thought of or noticed, you know. But all in all, the pattern's pretty good. Like I actually caught just about everything. The metric was a massive one, and when I made all the changes to the pattern, I was just like, I physically called the graphic artist. I'm like, I'm really sorry. You know, I think she's gonna see it and go, oh my God, you know. So oh, that's so funny. Okay, so I need my Grainline. Look at this, has a really nice cap. So we need our Grainline. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. I just need a line here. So put my Grainline. Your sleeve Grainline is really important. Monkeying around the sleeve can be kind of a rabbit hole of a mess. I've definitely had more messy rabbit holes with sleeves than anyone wants to go through. Okay, the weird thing about Grainline patterns is they draft their patterns, and I kind of hope they notice me say this one day, but I hope she never hears me saying this. But this is really weird. You know, the fact that on the back pattern, I'm pretty sure you get the right back as if you're wearing it. But your sleeve is made for a left back. So to be less confusing, you want to flip it over. And I know that sounds weird, but it's usually what happens is you have a, you get a right back, you have a right front. I have a left front right now because I chose the one with the placket. This pattern comes with both. And then, so then you would have your sleeve go into that hole, but this is the front of the sleeve and this is the back of the garment. And so the sleeve is backwards. I don't know why, it's always like that with their patterns. So it's the only pattern company I've ever seen do that. It's really weird. And it's really confusing for me when I'm trying to do it because I'm like, why isn't this right? And then I'm like, oh, I'm looking at the front. So I'm gonna trace my pattern piece here. And there's no like right or wrong way to do it. It's just the fact that the pattern pieces that you're given don't jive with the way the sleeve is. All right, so I'm gonna messily trace this off. There's my notches. I know I'm not being very accurate, but we're gonna true it up anyway. This little notch right here is always on the front of the sleeve. That's your indication too. Okay, there's my placket. And then my pleats. Pleat, 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 pleat. All right. My daughter has forgotten I'm streaming today. Soon she'll figure it out. Okay. I don't know about you, but I always used to always get confused on which way the sleeve placket goes because of the buttons. And every time I do it, I always have to go, but it always goes away from the front. You're always doing this away from your front. So if you're wearing the sleeve, the pleats go towards the back and the cuff goes towards the back. So it goes like that. So when you're sitting at your machine trying to remember that, that kind of helps, you know. Let's put our notches here. And now we are going to measure. We'll do a lot of measuring. You want your sleeve from bottom down, except when you have this kind of feature right here. You want this to be perfectly symmetrical. There's no reason this right here shouldn't be perfectly symmetrical to this. I actually recently saw a pattern that wasn't. Shame on them. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I was like, oh no. It was easy to fix, but your sleeve down here is perfectly symmetrical. Your cap is almost symmetrical. Usually the only difference is your front right about here, for just like a little bit of a way, like maybe 3.5 inches, is a little bit scooped out compared to the back. Let's look in. I don't know if we can trust my pattern. I've been kind of unkind to it. But see, this one is symmetrical for the most part. I have been very unkind to my pattern. So this one looks like it's actually symmetrical. And that makes sense. You don't really need to have the little scoop out on the front when you have kind of a loose shirt sleeve style shirt. It's really when you're doing things that are a little more fitted, and it's because naturally your arm is forward a little bit. And so it's just like getting rid of a little pucker of fabric right there. That's all. That's the only reason. So, all right, so now we're going to measure our armhole. And we're gonna do that whole thing of being kind to ourselves again, and we're gonna write down the measurements. I can't stress this enough. The see-through rule is really great for this. So personally, the way I like to measure is I include the side seam in my measurement, my overall measurement, but I only provide the back to the shoulder seam or wherever that's at, and the front to the shoulder seam, and I include that. So because basically then I can measure from here, this is your you know, wherever that shoulder seam was supposed to be, which I don't have it marked on here, unfortunately. Here we go. Where was that? That was like right here. Because this, then I can measure from here to here, and it's from here to here. That's what you're doing. That's exactly where it correlates. So, and I use the see-through ruler so I can just curve it along the seam line, which is about 3/4 of an inch in, right? So we'll just give ourselves a few guides, and it makes it a little easier. Like I say, you want to measure on the seam line, but I'm including this side seam allowance right here. It's only rare cases that you would really have to remove it. So I have about 12 5/8 plus. And then on my front, I have 1 3/8 plus here to there, and then, but we could just do this too. That's our shoulder seam. Okay, so I'm just gonna draw in some guides to run my ruler along of the seam line. And then let's make sure it's about right there. That's my shoulder seam. I've really agonized over this before. Oh wow, it's the same. That's weird. Usually it's about an inch different. All right. Okay, so oh, I just wrote that on the, okay. So this one, the front is, so it's 12 5/8 plus on both. It's really weird. Usually you want your front to be a little bit smaller because that's where your shoulder seam, your back is a little bit taller, usually about 1/2 to an inch. Awesome. Thank you for saying that, Ray. I actually was just wondering. But I know when I start talking sleeves, you all kind of go, either go, oh God, or so like in kids clothes, you just make it a straight up, whatever your company is, they decide, you know, 3/4 or an inch. You just lay the front, draw a parallel line at the shoulder seam, an inch away, raise up the back neck, and it's the back. You know, like that because kids are potatoes, right? They're just kind of these shapeless potatoes. You don't really have to worry about it. In women's wear, it's a little more thought goes into it, and it's about 3/4 of an inch. So I don't really know what to do with that information right now because it's not my pattern. So the reason I'm having trouble with it is because that would put this on my grain line on the middle of my sleeve, which I'm not okay with. I want it to be forward just because it's a little bit challenging for me to think of it that way. Okay, so, and I'm not prepared to make the adjustment to make it different than that because it is a yoke. I literally could just move this notch, you know, and then I would feel better. So I could say, oh, let's put this, you know, even if I just moved it 1/4 of an inch this way, you know, that would solve it. Like that's not really the proper way to do it, but because it's a yoke and it's not a proper shoulder seam, you could kind of monkey around with it that way. And that would probably be the easiest, best thing to do at this point because I'm going to do a muslin and we're going to check it, right? So we'll add 1/4 to this, which makes it almost, we'll say this is 13. And then that one, the other, this one's 13. And then this one is 12 3/8. Oh yeah, so I don't want to move it 1/4. This is where you get into weirdness. You only need to move it like 1/8. Because you take 1/8 off the back and you're adding 1/8 to the back and you're taking 1/8 off the front, and that moves it 1/4, right? I'm getting punchy. I'm sorry, you guys. Let's look at it this way. This is the front. And if I wanted, what we could do, we'll measure the overall, this is what we'll do. We're going to measure the overall armhole, which is 16 right there. This is how you get by with it. This is how you get around it. We'll figure out our total armhole. So we'll just do it all in one, like this. It looks nice. What was that? Oh, thanks for subscribing, Sherry. You're catching me at kind of a punchy part. It's almost lunchtime. And I'm talking sleeves and armholes, and I'm so worried I'll give you guys bad information. All right, here we go. I'm gonna measure my armhole. So it's 18. $18, 25 1/4 is my total arm, like the armhole, the arm's eye there. And so to make it so that it's going to be a little bit different, it's that I can split it in half. So it's 12 1/2, 12 5/8, just like I had before. But then I'm going to take 1/8 of an inch off each side. Right, Ray, I know. Exactly. Yeah, quilting cotton's actually not too bad in this pattern, especially if you add the shaping. So this is going to be 12 3/4. This one is going to be, wait, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. I keep getting confused that this isn't the back. It's always the back. This is what's problem for me. Because I used this front, and it's not the right front, I'm using the back upside down. I know this is so dumb, you guys, but it's just my own thing. I've done this for so long the opposite way. This is what's confusing me. You know what I mean? So this is the front. This is the back. I just need these visual cues. This is my problem right now. I'm confusing myself. Get rid of this. All right, so I want my back to be, this is my back. I want it to be 12 3/4 plus. And then this one's going to be like 12 1/2 plus, like that. That's how I get it. Oi. Let me make that 10 times more complicated than it needed to be. All right, now let's look and see what our sleeve actually measures. And don't forget, we actually need ease in our sleeve for it to fit well as well, right? So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add about 3/4 right here. I'm actually gonna add about 1 inch. Now I'm gonna stick a 3/4 right here. And I'm probably, let's just do a little quick thing here. I'm probably gonna drop my armhole as well, because we did that as well. I'm gonna drop it 1/2 because of the seam allowance thing. Drop it 1/2. So it's looking more like this right now, because I brought my cap up higher onto the shoulder, and I really needed to scoop out my armhole because it was onto my arm, right? So I backed off my armhole away from the body. So now the sleeve needs to come closer. So actually probably may want to, no. I think I want to scoop that out, yeah. So let's look at it that way. All right, so now I'm just gonna look at this, and I think I'll get a lot closer, and then I can just add the ease I need. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so the other thing I'm going to do is fold my sleeve in half. And I'm only going to work on one side. Not on the Grainline. My paper's not on the Grainline, so now it's all funky. Okay. So here's my front. And we're just going to draw this in a little bit, like that. I keep forgetting to check the camera. Okay, so let me think about my seam allowances right now. I'm going to need to add a quarter here because I want flat felled seams on some of my seams, right? So we're going to have a 3/4 inch seam here. That pencil's just not sharp enough yet. Hopefully you can see that. And then this will be a 3/4 inch seam as well, like that. But this isn't going to stay there. This is probably going to go out a little bit more, and that's because of the ease I want to add to my sleeve. But I'm also going to try and add a little bit through here because I feel like this gush just needs a little bit more on me, you know. I get mine from a supplier for the garment industry, but I'm pretty sure Lisa Hurst told us that you can get it at Waywack. I like both. What I like about flat felled seams is that they're flat to the shirt and they almost are reversible. Whereas French seams are really clean finished, but you still have your seam allowance in there. So French seams, if you need to make a change later, they might be a little easier to deal with. Yeah, oak tag on Amazon. Yeah, oak tag is another word for that. Okay, so what I need this to be is the 12 5/8 to the fold, because that's my total sleeve, right? And then I want the shoulder seam to be 1/4 inch forward. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to look for my seam line with my ruler. So let's just kind of try and find it here. 12 5/8. So it's going to be something like that plus my seam allowance. That's not bad. Plus I need my ease. And I'm going to add about 1.5 inches, so 3/4 to both. So 12 5/8 plus the 3/4 is more like 13 1/4, 13 3/8 plus, something like that. So I'm looking for a 13 3/8 plus. And plus my seam allowance. No, not plus my seam allowance. I already added it in there. Okay, so 13 3/8. That will include the seam allowance, and it'll include the ease that I'm going to put on the sleeve. So that looks a little bit more realistic. It's something like that. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Okay, cool. So let's put in the seam line. And then I'm gonna cut a muslin and try this. We haven't even gotten to making my pattern yet. Well, you know, Ray, did you hear what I did on my husband's shirt for Christmas? I had his shirt all done except for adding the collar on. And I had put the shirt sleeve plackets, the kind with the little angle at the top, you know, the really nice tailored one. I really love sewing those. They're really fun. I have never done one on camera, but they're really not that hard either. They're pretty forgiving. And I did it on the wrong side of the sleeve because his fabric was the same both sides. It was the exact same fabric I'm using, but his was a dark blue. And I didn't notice I'd done that. So then when I put the... So then when I had done that when the sleeves were already on the garment, I had done those on the wrong side of the sleeve. So my sleeves were on the shirt pretty much inside out and backwards. I had to take off the sleeve. All the flat fell on the armhole and then flip them. It was a nightmare. And it was so confusing that I was like, I don't understand how I did this wrong. And it was just because I didn't notice the side of the fabric when I put the placket on. I just did the placket on the wrong side of the sleeve. I was so dumb. Man. It was just one of those things where I was like, there is no workaround for this. There's just not a workaround. Okay, so that's my one. Yeah, this is it. All right, so I feel like I did this math really fast for you guys, so I'm gonna kind of look at it again. So basically what I did was I found my entire armhole amount. And the only reason I'm getting away with this is because there's not a true shoulder seam on the Archer because it's a yoke, right? So it's nice that I had that little bit to play with there, and I can kind of find where I want that shoulder seam to be. It is not like a guarantee that it'll always be that easy to do that. But like I said, you really want your sleeve to be symmetrical, and the shoulder seam is about 1/4 of an inch forward of this fold right here. So the back is 1/4 of an inch bigger, and then the front is 1/4 inch. Well, it's like 1/2 inch smaller total. So yeah, right. I had Christmas as a deadline and I really didn't get peeps many presents this year. I made my husband and daughter shirts, and my daughter this full like queen-sized quilt, and then you know, my parents a few things, but I was like, okay, if I don't have this, I don't have much. I got my husband the national parks pass, you know, like the passport and a shirt. I went very low-key this year. All right, so we're gonna check it. So now what I'm doing is I'm making sure, so this 12 5/8 is half of my total armhole. But you can't make your sleeve match your armhole. You have to add in ease. Even if you hate putting it in and hate sewing it in, you have to have it, otherwise your sleeve is not gonna fit. You have to have the ease, because if you look at a garment on someone and you look at the, you know, the sleeve or the armhole, right? You have this and it's on someone, right? This is really the only 3-dimension you get. It isn't much. It's just really not much 3-dimension that you get to accommodate the sleeve. So the sleeve is being sewn to something that's really a flat garment, and it's the sleeve that needs to add this 3-dimension going across right here, right? So you have to add in extra fabric to accommodate this depth, the depth of your upper arm, because that's not accommodated for. This is only going to here, and the sleeve has to go all the way around. And then when it gets to here, it's separate, right? So it's good to think about how the sleeve interacts with your body to understand why you really need that ease, but you really need it. All right, so I've added my 12 5/8, and then I want about 1.5 inches total ease across my armhole. That's about the max you want to add, but I like having the max. So that's 3/4 for both sides. So that's where I got the 12 5/8. That's the fold of my paper to the edge of my sleeve, including the underarm seam allowance, okay? Plus 3/4 of an inch. And the way I did that really quickly was I rounded this to 12 3/4, which would make this, 13 1/2. And I have to take off a little, go back down, and that's where I got the 13 3/8. So I'm a whiz with fractions sometimes, but not always. I'm measuring on a 3/4 inch seam allowance line because of the flat fell seam I want. So I'm adding about this much. And I'm really happy to see that. But I think what I'm gonna try and do is add a little bit here. Right there, I'm gonna make this a little bit fatter. Take off a little bit, right there. That's my plan. It's kind of getting big, I know. That's what muslins are for. Okay. I'm excited to try this. I think we really shy away from doing custom patterns because then when we see the pattern, we doubt it. We're like, that doesn't look like the pattern. Exactly, right? You're doing it, you know, for you. You aren't standard. Nobody is. There's no such thing. There's some person named Standard out there with a really fat wardrobe, you know? Night, Malin. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so I'm cutting along. Ooh, actually, I kind of want... I really like my sleeve not to be binding right here, so I am kind of exaggerating that a little bit. I'm kind of excited though. So I'm gonna put my shoulder seam notch right here. And then typically this is 3 inches up. The front notch is usually 3 inches up. I'll put it at 4. And then the back is at 4 and 4.5. That's just kind of it's usually 3 and 3.5. I'm gonna do 4 and 4.5. And then it's same on here. So one here. Okay. I know oak tag's probably a lot of paper for a rough draft, but I just find it a little easier to deal with because you can trace around it. And I'm kind of getting low on my other paper. But you can get dot paper for doing pattern stuff. And it looks like my grid under here, except it's just dots. It's usually blue. And they're little tiny letters. And it'll spell out the name of like the business, like Blue Line, and it'll be B-L-U-E, and you just know those letters are at 1 inch intervals. You know, it's not 100% like where in the B is the center of the dot, but you just kind of know. So, okay, so we've got our sleeve. Let's see how weird it is. I didn't true the bottom yet. Oh, I think that looks pretty good. Pretty excited about that. Okay, so I'm gonna trim this here. I'm gonna put my pleats back in. Put my placket back in. I haven't cut one of these in a while. Usually you go like this. You fold the paper, you put a notch right here, and then you cut the fold off. And then you have your placket right there. I just do the red to remind myself, yo! Hey Sandy, how's it going? I'm kind of almost at the end, but we've been altering the Archer button up heavily. So let's see. So the pattern pieces we haven't really worked on today are my other placket for the right front. This doesn't need any. This doesn't need anything. This doesn't need anything. Those are just all interfacing or the bias strip for the placket on the sleeve. right? So these are the collar pieces here, and here's my cuff. And so my cuff, and this is the pocket, the chest pocket, which is kind of an odd proportion, honestly, and I would probably actually change this. So I'm transferring all my pattern pieces to the manila paper, at the same time doing all these pattern adjustments. So now I'll have my like archer on manila paper, and then I need to make the changes I want to make the shirt. But I think I'm gonna do that right at the beginning of the stream tomorrow before I cut it out, because it'll be way faster than what we did today. So my cuff is actually quite a bit smaller and narrower. I find the cuff to be a little big for the archer in both width and circumference. And this is the interfacing piece right here. So these are all pieces I'm going to transfer to the manila off camera. You know how to do that. The only thing different I'm going to do here with my collar is I'm going to trim off 1/4 inch off the perimeter so that it's down to 1/4 inch seams, not 1/2 inch seams, because that's just what I prefer. So that's the only thing different. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to transfer all these to manila, and I'm going to have my archer. I'm also going to cut out the front, the back, the yoke, and the sleeve on one side. I'm going to try it out, okay? Sandy. Everybody's special here. Right? You know, Terry, I've done everything. You know me. I've done the fabric I cut the shirt out in. I've done fusible. I've done non-fusible. I've done poplin. You've done geeking out. Like this one, I actually really like this one. And I think it's just a piece of poplin in there. I sewed this one, actually, I got finished. It turned out really beautiful. And then I wanted to alter the cuffs so much that they're not even sewn that great anymore. It's like, but I love that shirt. I love that fabric, so. Ray, you guys are so funny. We're all equals here. I feel like that way so much in life. I feel like it gets in the way of me promoting, you know? We're all just sewists trying to figure it out. Okay, so how's that sound, you guys? So my sleeve's looking really different. I have a feeling that what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, and then I'm going to raise this up a little bit. We'll see. And I'm going to make my right front. So I have my left front right now. Yeah, and my right front. I need to make my right front without the placket. Yeah, that'll be everything. And so tomorrow, all I'll be doing is I'll probably add, I don't know if I line this. I don't know if you're still here, Terry, but if I line this, I probably won't do flat felled seams, honestly, because if I line it, I won't have to, right? And then I really wanted to do this so that it was fully reversible. And I was even going to cut the collar so that, like, when, you know, like this side and the collar stand would be the same fabric when you're looking at it and you're wearing it. But if you looked under, it would be the opposite, right? Because when you flipped it to the other side, I really started thinking about it, you know? The only reason I'm not going to be heck bent on doing that is that I don't want to compromise my shirt overall just to make it reversible, because how often are we going to reverse it? I just really like both fabrics a lot. So on one side, I'm going to do the cutaway pocket. So it's kind of like this, because it's like a shirt over shirt jackety thing. And then on the inside, I'll probably put chest pockets. So it'll be a different shirt on either side, you know? And I think the placket is going to show on one side of the garment. So I'm not going to make the placket reversible in the way that's the same fabric. So that's why I feel like I really could have geeked out on it. You know, because you could just put a seam up the center, the seam on the edge. You really could. You could make this reversible, but you'd really be in for some, you're basically making a jacket, a fully lined jacket, and you might as well just make a jacket, you know? So I just kind of wanted a sewing challenge. I like doing that. So, all right. Well, I'm really sorry that the stream stopped and then started again. I'm really glad it started again. You guys let me know. That was really weird. So hopefully, well, I'll be able to, I can't put those together, but I can link one to the next, I think. So kind of a bummer. But I will see you guys tomorrow, where I will show you my muslin. And whatever changes I had to make, I'll go over those. And then we'll put the hand pockets on here. I'm going to probably straighten out the hem a little bit and add a vent. And that's it for my little shirt. Yeah, that's, I think. And I'm going to decide if I'm using the flat felled seams. And if I don't, I might trim a little bit of seam allowance off. So that's awesome, Terry. Thanks. I'm always asking you questions, Terry. You're inspiring too. Okay, cool. Well, I'm staring me, by the way, 2 hours later. And let's see. Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. I'm gonna take it slow too. I usually cut on a Wednesday, sew Thursday, Saturday, and we're done. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna kind of take this one kind of slow. So I hope that's okay with you guys. And we may even be starting a garment in a weird day of the week next week. I don't know. We'll see. Just because that's my only resolution this year is that I'm going to take it a little slower. So, Terry, you're pretty good. I feel like I don't need more clothes, so I don't really want to add. I want to really get the things I want, So, and I know Megan wants to do some leggings next month. I might be able to do that. I don't have a pattern though. Maybe. Right, exactly. Instincts. Trust your instincts. But also don't doubt it just because it looks wrong. Try it, Sew a sample. Sew a sample. Not knowing anything is the worst. So just get rid of the unknown, like that's the thing is like sometimes I worry about things and I realize I'm worrying about something that it's because I don't know what the answer is. That's why I'm worried about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know how to do it. Whatever it is, that's the things that worry, right? The things we don't know. So if you can get rid of any of the unknown part, just get rid of it. If you're like, all right, even though it's extra work and I have to cut and sew something really quick as a muslin sample, just do it. That way you took that off the table and now you're like, okay, now I know, right? Yeah. So it's such a hard thing. It's so logical, but we really fight it, I fight it too. We all like shortcuts. Me too. All right. Well, I will see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully the stream doesn't crash like it did or whatever the heck that was. And yeah, cool. Hasta mañana, iguanas. Where's my mouse? I can't even say goodbye to you if I don't have my mouse. The table's kind of messy. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Happy sewing and take care. Yes, exactly, Ray. You do. All right, I'll see you guys.